Looking at the data, we believe the number 3 reactor vessel at the moment still has the capacity to contain radioactive substances. But we have to analyze the data further, as radiation has been spreading far away from the plant. There is the possibility that the number 3 reactor has sustained damage.
The 3 workers were exposed to the radiation in the flooded basement of the turbine building next to the number 3 reactor building. 2 of them were being transferred to the National Institute of Radiological Sciences in Chiba Prefecture near Tokyo on Friday. The 2 could be suffering from so-called beta burns, which would confirm radiation exposure. TEPCO says 3.9 million becquerels of radioactive substances per cubic centimeter were detected in the water the 3 workers were standing in. That reading is 10,000 times higher than levels in water inside an operating nuclear reactor. Restoration work to reconnect power to equipment in the number 1 to 4 reactor buildings meanwhile resumed on Friday. The agency says pressure inside the number 1 reactor has been stabilized due to the ongoing injection of seawater to cool down the containment vessel. The agency emphasized the need to switch from seawater to fresh water to cool the reactors and the storage pools containing spent nuclear fuel rods.
We are now pumping seawater, but we would prefer to switch to fresh water by employing another fire extinguishing vehicle. Seawater contains salt and other impurities. Eventually, it will lead to corrosion in the equipment, and it will cause it to seize up.
Earlier, NHK World's Yoshiyuki Yamasaki gave us his analysis of the current situation at the Fukushima Daiichi power plant, including the exposure of 3 workers to radiation.
Mr. Yamazaki, yesterday at number 3 unit, 3 workers were exposed to a high level of radiation. They were not in the reactor building, but in the turbine building. So these buildings were different, yes. We are very concerned about their conditions. And where they were is of grave concern as well. As you can see, on the left is the exhaust vent, and next to it is nuclear reactor building, the center of this unit of the plant. And to the right is the turbine building, indicated green. This is where 3 workers were working yesterday. I visited here several times. Normally there is no radiation, nearly zero in this building. But now high levels of radiation were detected, exposing workers to very high levels of radiation yesterday. As the Nuclear and Industrial Safety Agency implied at the press conference, the water from the reactor or other places may be leaking out and flowing into the turbine building. This means that the highly contaminated water may be spreading widely from the reactor. That would make the effort for recovery more difficult. So it's not conclusive, but radioactive substances may not be contained entirely in the reactor, right? The earthquake damaged the facilities and equipment heavily and may have caused dislocation of pipes and cracks, and the water within the reactor may be leaking out now. And the water that caused the worker radiation injuries is 10,000 more radioactive than the water in normal operation. What does this mean? When a nuclear power plant is operated normally, the water in the reactor is not so contaminated with radiation because the fuel rods are covered with metal casings, preventing radiation from going out. But the radiation of 10,000 times as high as normal means that this metal casing may have been damaged as well. As the Nuclear and Safety Agency and TEPCO suggested, the fuel rods of the number 3 reactor may have been damaged and melted partially.
And you can see this shows a fuel rod in an assembly. Many of them were assembled, and we have a cover on top. This metal cladding, the cover seems to be broken. And as a result, large amount of radioactive material inside escaped and found its way into the flooded water in the turbine building. This incident took place in number 3 reactor. What about other reactors from number 1 to 6? Number 1 to 6 reactors, or number 1 to 3 reactors were in operation when the earthquake hit. So fuels were inside the reactors. Now that no one can approach the reactors with no power restored fully, with insufficient data available, no firm statement can be made now. But in number 1 to 3 reactors, it is very likely that fuel rods are damaged. And as a result, the water is heavily contaminated. Restoration work, therefore, is even more challenging. Now, number 4 to 6 reactors, the operation was suspended for regular inspection. The number 4 reactor fuels were kept in the storage pool rather than in the reactor. For number 5 and 6 reactors, they were in the regular inspection, but they were about to restart the number 5 and 6 reactors. So fuels had been moved into the reactors, but they had not ignited them, and external electricity is connected early on. So at number 5 and 6, the cold shutdown has been achieved, and the temperature readings are sub 100 degrees. I don't see much problem. At a press conference, agency remarked in response to this number 3 reactor incident with 3 workers' exposures. They orally instructed TEPCO to improve the management proceedings, asking for extra caution. That is correct. No restoration crew experienced this operation to cool the nuclear fuel rods. It's very challenging, but all the more radiation must be managed thoroughly, or there may be a major delay. So TEPCO and national government, relevant organizations must review the system.
More than 10,000 people have been confirmed dead in the massive earthquake and tsunami 2 weeks ago. The toll is expected to rise further. The National Police Agency said 10,035 people were confirmed to have died as of Friday morning. About 17,500 people are still missing. Most of the dead and missing are from the 3 hardest-hit prefectures of Miyagi, Iwate, and Fukushima. The figure for Fukushima is far below those of the other prefectures, partly because search operations are postponed to the evacuation zone within 20 kilometers of the stricken Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant. The toll of dead and missing is almost certain to rise due to the non-existence of relatives to report lost loved ones. In some areas, entire families appear to have been swept away in the tsunami that followed the magnitude 9 earthquake. About 202,000 people are living in evacuation facilities around the country. Health concerns are rising over the evacuees because of continuing cold weather. In many devastated areas, temperatures plunged to below zero Friday morning. It might look at times like an impossible task, but reconstruction amid the ruins is proceeding.